What's going on, everybody? Look, we are close to a full setup here. This is the first time I'm actually doing this, going live in my new office, soon to be all decked out. Maybe not soon, but we'll figure it out as we go along. But welcome into RGR Football, everybody. It might be a little echoey, so I do apologize about that. Maybe it'll stop doing that when we get through it. But like I said, my name is Daniel Harms, senior film analyst, and there's been a lot of news dropping today. We're going to start off talking about the Rashee Rice confirmed suspension. What's that going to entail? Obviously, with the Chiefs keeping 8 receivers to start the season on their roster. Ryan went over that with you guys last night. There were some telltale signs about what was going to happen. We have the practice squad confirmations. Some guys were left off of it. But overall, there's some interesting things that happened today. So please, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that sub button right now. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on. And hopefully you guys will be well enough to give a like to the channel, to the video, because at the end of the day, we are trying to get out to more and more of Chiefs Kingdom. And the only way to do that is to continue to bump us out into the algorithm. So you guys, let's talk about this suspension. First and foremost, this was from Matt Derrick earlier today. It is official. Yes, this is the Rashee Rice suspended without pay for the first 6 games of the 2025 season. Yes, we got all that. So Monday, October 13th, boom, there it is. We have the confirmation. We'll get to CEH Beach. I promise you that much. I will address that for sure. Yes, FLDB, I did get it. Finally, we're just, it's here. I was able to get everything set up. It's funny. Quick side note. I got everything unpacked yesterday. My desktop was ready to go. They did not pack the screws that mount them onto the stand. So that was fun having to deal with that. Went out to Home Depot this morning to get that figured out. But you guys know this is what we expect, that when he goes on, Robert Tonyan, who was at practice today, should be elevated to the 53-man roster. The suspension is 6 games. I know everyone, NFL wanted 10. No, they didn't. They didn't want anything. This was, at the end of the day, probably what it was going to be. I thought 4, 6 is too worse than what I expected. But again, you do something stupid, you deserve to get suspended. So that's exactly what ends up happening here. And the Chiefs offense will be having to fight through the same type of nonsense they had to last year with Jalen Royals' injury. Another thing I want to actually share with you guys on that. Where did it go? Matt tweeted this out. Let me find it. Going to go through his tweets. I'm talking about there was a Jalen Royals update right here. Just a couple of things, because actually, I like this. I liked this better. That's what I wanted to do. I'm interested about this because we've had conflicting reports. One saying from Nate Taylor that he's not going to be ready for week 1. This from Matt Derrick. Once we hear from the team, barring this injury, I mean, Matt says right here that unless there's a setback, expect Jalen Royals to be available to start the season. I don't think that they should rush him back if he's got knee tendonitis and he has some lingering problems. However, if he's ready to go, I think he should play. But we do know that at least Hollywood Brown is going to be able to go, right? He got healthy near the end of camp. He didn't play in the last preseason game, but barring anything, again, barring more setbacks, these guys should be ready to go. So they're going to have a lot of the same situation that they dealt with post Rashee Rice injury, where they're going to be asking a little bit more of Xavier Worthy, which is fine. But you have now a competent wide receiver room. Looks like Tyquan Thornton's going to fit right in. We know Jason Brownlee is really going to only do one thing for this team. But overall, I think Juju's going to be involved. But really, this opens up an interesting dynamic with 12 and 13 personnel. I think Bob Tonyan and Noah Gray are going to be a really good addition to this 13 personnel, which the Chiefs want to run. They want to run more of that. And honestly, the run game needs to be better. The offensive line can do that as well. So this is going to help them, I think, settle down some lingering problems that they had last year with the run game. You might see more run earlier in the season. When Rashee Rice comes back, you'll probably see more of the passing game and stuff like that. So Travis early on in the season will have to do a little bit more. Juju Smith-Schuster, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, all that being said. So I'm just glad that we're seeing it now. We get the first 6 games of this season, and it's not some crazy thing where it's halfway, 4 games into the season, then he misses 6, then he's got to come back. No, it'll be the start of the season all the way through, and then on October 13th, he will be ready to go. So the suspension, it is, like I said, it is what it is. So what does that mean for everything else? Like I said, probably more about the run game, and I'm very interested to see what they do. Maybe Andy Reid finally gets a little more creative with the run game. I'd be happy to do that. I know Ryan also went through the roster with you guys. I didn't do that. I didn't get to do that. So this is not confirmed because you're going to have Rashi Rice off of this roster, but still, you've got Nico Remigio, Jalen Royals, all these guys here. Rashard Smith did end up making it. A little shocked that Elijah Mitchell made the roster. Personally, didn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when they waived Isapole, who, by the way, was also selected by the Jets. 2 Chiefs players were picked up by the Jets this afternoon, and Cam Jones and Isapole. I don't know why they did this. This doesn't make any sense. If you're going to bring Clyde Edwards-Helaire back anyway, why is Elijah Mitchell on the roster and Isapole is not? I don't get that one at all. You also don't have Big Mike. He also was not brought back to the practice squad. Now, I know I got a little upset on Twitter earlier. I'm stressed, guys. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of unpacking, trying to get things figured out for this house. However, Mike Pennell was on the couch a few years ago, and they were able to just kind of call him and get him on the practice squad. I'm not worried about any situation where he goes and plays for another team. This does feel like a lot more of, we're going to wait and see what happens. Mike Pennell is going to be there whenever we want him to. So, like, just trying to figure all of that out at the same time is going to be just fine. I'm not worried about Mike Pennell playing somewhere else. So that's all I'll say about that. And, Derek Nottie being the only run stuffer on the roster. I know everyone says that they brought in, I had the practice squad up. I don't know where it went. But, let me pull up the Chiefs practice squad real quick because I want you guys to have that as well so we can talk about all of that. But, yeah, I know people are going to be upset about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I understand it. Like, I'm not mad about him being on the practice squad. I'm just kind of frustrated that we're at this point where the Chiefs are consistently bringing back players that they have to do. Like the players that were already on the roster that they let go. So that's more of the frustrating thing, I think, for me when it comes to how they're able to set this up. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be too mad about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So just try to bear with me on that as I get through here and back to the Chiefs practice squad, because over here I have a little tab for it. I don't know why it's being finicky. But yeah, how's your guys' day going? I want to hear what you guys have to say about this and what you guys think about what happens with the practice squad. I know at the end of the day, like, practice squad players don't mean a whole lot to the end eventuality of the team, but we know that the Chiefs have been pretty savvy in their practice squad players. They've done it with veterans before, been able to bring them up and use them in games, and it's kind of impactful for them. So Broderick Martin was the guy that a lot of people are saying he's the other run stuffer along with Marlon Tuipulotu. But like, Broderick Martin, the idea of Broderick Martin's fine. He got hurt last year. He hasn't played all year, and the Detroit Lions, who need defensive tackle depth, cut him. That doesn't give me a lot of faith that he's going to come in and then just work his way from the practice squad to the roster. So, like, it's an interesting thing to just kind of point to. But again, here is breakdown of the Chiefs practice squad. You've got Cole Christensen, Mike Edwards, CJ Hansen, Jimmy Holiday, Izzard from Penn State, defense tackle, big guy, athletic guy, cornerback Kevin Knowles, Chris Odokin, Hal Presley, Melvin Smith, Carson Steele, Robert Tanyan, Marlon Tuipulotu, Trey Watson, and Chuk Godric. So this does not include Clyde Edwards-Helaire or the guy we just talked about in Broderick Martin. Those guys did not make it to the waiver wire additions this time around by 3 p.m. So they'll be activated onto the practice squad tomorrow, and all will be fine. So yes, you guys, that exactly, Beach. That's who I was talking about. Broderick Martin right there. So that's again, let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't have an issue with him being on the roster in terms of assuming the practice squad. Makes sense. He knows the system. And Andy Reid, again, he's a good guy to have around. I'm still a big Clyde Edwards-Helaire fan of the person. Like, I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the person. Bit redundant. We know it doesn't make any sense from a running back standpoint. If Elijah Mitchell isn't going to be able to give you enough, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially, like I said, if you like Isapole, and he was the 7th, the Jets had the 7th waiver in the waiver wire, so they were able to get him pretty quickly. I would have liked to see who else that they were, what other teams went ahead and tried to put waivers on him, but this is what happens. It's what happens when you put too much faith in players that don't deserve it. No offense, Wanya Morris does not deserve the faith to be kept in him. Isapole deserves that spot, and I don't believe that this makes a whole lot of sense. It's one of the things that I'm most mad about, and I tweeted it yesterday. I think it was a mistake that there was no way that he was going to get all the way through waivers and back onto the practice squad. You have to know, especially with what he put on the first 2 games, the first 2 practice preseason games. You have to know he's not going to make it through waivers. And they even tried to hide him after the 3rd preseason game because they knew that he wasn't going to make it through waivers. And yet here we are talking about it on Wednesday evening. So that's a frustrating part about this whole situation, is that is a guy who can be a developmental backup. He could legitimately back up left tackle, right tackle for you. You could have 2 swing tackles. But Jalen Moore is probably going to be your starting right tackle next year. If he's not playing well, you're on a 2-year contract, you can get out and say, hey, look, we got Isapole. He's been fine. He's been really good. We can develop him and actually start him there. So that's a frustrating thing. And then this whole Derek Nottie situation, guys. For me, Derek Nottie was getting cut from the Jets. Let's not forget the Jets went and traded for 2 other defensive tackles and then traded away Derek Nottie, who, again, they were going to cut. So the fact that he's just on the roster and Mike Pennell is not when he was the starter last year, and they actively did not bring back Derek Nottie, there must be something going on with Mike Pennell that we don't know, because he has been the guy, unless he fell off the age cliff. Maybe he's just bad now. I don't know. Maybe they didn't feel comfortable with him being their starter. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But overall, like, there's a lot that goes on here. And shout out to Cooper McDonald. This is what I like to see. UDFA guys that were camp tryout guys. They didn't even make they weren't even like UDFAs they brought in. He had to come out and try out and make the roster. So this was really cool to see. I think Cooper McDonald is a very developmental player. Like, it's obvious that he sees the game very quickly when he sees it right. And that's the one thing you have to remember with these guys. Specifically him, like he looks like he's still getting the speed of the game, but when he finds it, he sees it, he gets downhill quickly, he can make plays. He was better than Cole Christensen and Jack Cochran, but Jack Cochran is a core special teams player. He was never getting cut. But the fact that we see Cam Jones get cut, who's been on the team a few years, tells me that the Chiefs, the entire defensive side, believe that this guy is going to be somebody that they can actually put on the field in a backup situation and be comfortable with. So I like that. I like that a lot. I think that we know that Jeffrey Bassa is the future of the will position, that the Drew Tranquil position. We'll see how he plays this year, given he's coming off of an injury this preseason and training camp. So there's a lot that goes through. And remember, these things happen now. This isn't going to look the same in 2-3 weeks. Practice squad doesn't look different. I would imagine the roster looks a little bit different. So there's going to be some shakeups, some things that happen there. So obviously the frustration with Mike Pennell, who was the guy that was your only run-stopping guy. Now you only have Derek Nottie and some guys on the practice squad that you hope can do something. It's a little insane to really get through. And yeah, so he's not technically on the practice squad yet, Beach. He'll be on the practice squad tomorrow. The intention is to bring him on. It wasn't announced before the end of transactions for the day. So that's the only reason that they've said that, and that's neither here nor there. So there's some interesting things that have been said, by the way, because now we kind of flash forward to the regular season, because there are, 9 days now between now and the opening game in Sao Paulo. This is something that came across my Twitter feed earlier today. I don't know how many of you saw it. Right here is something that worries me. Jawaan Taylor talking about knee maintenance going to Brazil because one, it's different altitude, which we've seen happen for multiple different players, but this is different for him. He's talking about he's not sure if he's going to have to get it drained when they are in Brazil. So, the one thing that I'm going to say now is that Jalen Moore is your backup right tackle. Imagine, if you will, a lot of people were asking if they should trade Jalen Moore because Josh Simmons won the left tackle job. Jawaan Taylor's still the starting right tackle. Well, maybe we should trade him now. This is why you don't. This situation is exactly what the Chiefs needed to have happen. They needed one of Josh Simmons to be fully ready, fully healthy, ready to go to start the season, or Jalen Moore to hit, and then or Jalen Moore to be good in the event that Josh Simmons wasn't fully ready to start, just in case some of this situation. But also, yes, if you are worried about knee maintenance and you actively make your offensive line depth worse, that's a problem for me. And that's why it's okay to disagree with things that happen, right? We're not going to bat 1,000. The Chiefs aren't going to bat 1,000. It's never going to happen. This one specifically irritates me. It irritates me a lot. And JT, to your point, yeah, I don't believe that this makes no sense. Damian Martinez should be in Kansas City yesterday. Should be in Kansas City yesterday. But back to the main point at hand here. So it does leave me a little concerned. I'm trying to get this done right. I like this view a little bit better than like the little screen. So I'm very worried about Jawaan Taylor's health. Now, again, Jalen Moore makes this a little bit less problematic. Sorry, there's now that it's getting like, so this is an interesting dynamic. I'm gonna turn the light on here real quick because it's getting dark outside. Sorry, guys. So yeah, just try to remember that if Jawaan Taylor ends up not playing, or you hear he's getting his knee drained, there's probably a good chance that he might not play the entire game. I would imagine Andy Reid and Brett Veach, everyone is probably getting Jalen Moore ready to play a little bit here and there on that day. So I think Jalen Moore ends up playing a little bit. If they have to switch on and off, I think that might be okay. You don't want to press it too much with Jawaan Taylor in the knee situation stuff. So what happens, trying to get this over with actually getting through this one game, because then they get back, they can let him rest and let the knee swelling go down, and everything should be fine. So I'm very interested to see what happens here. But overall, it's not great, but they're in a situation that can actually handle it because Jalen Moore is now in Kansas City. So lots of stuff happened today, guys. If you have any questions, anything at all, make sure you're using those question marks before your questions, and I can pick them out of the chat. JT, I didn't see this one. I didn't see any of these guys picked up, but it would not be surprising to me if they're just sitting on the waiver wire somewhere, sitting on the free agency wire, just kind of waiting to be selected. I know that Mac wasn't on the Chiefs practice squad, which I thought was a little surprising to me, but overall, they have 8 wide receivers on the roster already. Obviously, Rashi Rice won't be there when this starts tomorrow, so you'll have 7, but still, very interesting situation to be in. I know, I was upset. Sam, I talked about Rashi Rice at the very beginning of this video. The very beginning. I'm sorry you think it's clickbait, but I let off the entire show with it. Sorry you're upset. Big Pat, yeah, I know. I wanted to see Kobe Bryant in Kansas City too. It would have been a lot of fun. Like, it would have been a ton of fun to see him. I know he's a smaller guy, but overall, like the way that he plays, I think that feeds right into Steve Spagnuolo and what he wants to do. It's just, it would have been fun, man. I really would have liked to see it. MHK, appreciate you being here. Trying to be optimistic. Do I remember thoughts that Wanye is better at right tackle than left? Obviously, we would play it more first. I think Wanya Morris, he played At Oklahoma, he was the right tackle there. He was drafted. Obviously, they moved him to left. He's athletic enough to obviously play both, but his problem is that he's just not good. So it doesn't really matter. I know you're trying to be optimistic. I'm not trying to rain on your parade or whatnot, but he's only playing left for a reason. It feels like that they don't even want him on the right-hand side. Again, I go back to Patrick Mahomes basically benching Wanya Morris last year in the event that we have to figure out what's going on with that situation. Like I can't get to this point now where they trust him to be on the roster more than a guy who I think outplayed him, regardless of the competition level they were playing. I think Isapole outplayed him the entire time. So I'm in a situation where personally, myself, I think I would have Pole over Morris. Andy Reid values experience, starting experience, regardless of what that experience may be or what it entails. But overall, it's a frustrating situation to be in. The good thing is, like you said, more is there. They don't have to turn to Wanya Morris right now or Chu Godric. They don't. Honestly, I think Chu made some good steps this preseason, so that was at least good. But I think Pole was the best guy, not named Jalen Moore, Jawaan Taylor, and Josh Simmons. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, me too. Knives. It's that's the thing is that you make bad decisions, bad things happen. Like this is what you deserve. You deserve to be suspended for being a dumbass. That's just what it is. And I'm never going to think that he didn't deserve it. Like this is what happens. So at the end of the day, it's good to get it done and have it out the way. I know that he's been looking good in camp. I know that his knee seems to be fine, but this gives you even more time to get the knee right. I know it wasn't an ACL tear, but it's still a good thing to. He's not gonna, and that's another thing too. Is Rashi Rice isn't going to be allowed to be around the team, around the building, around anybody. So he's going to have to keep himself right away from the game. So he's going to have to work with a wide receiver coach that does stuff outside. His own individual workouts will have to be to the level that he was doing in training camp to get himself right. Like it's going to be tough to maintain that type of play style outside of the pads, the camaraderie, the locker room, all that stuff. So the good news, like you said, is that he's going to come back around October 13th, and they're going to have time to get him acclimated back into the offense, and hopefully everything is running smoothly and everyone is able to be on the same page, and then we don't have to worry about getting the offense back in the right track. So I think that the mentality for the offense itself will continue to try to be explosive, and then they can work everything else back and have him right back there as well. So I think that they can do that. Have you looked at any Broderick Martin tape and what he brings to the table? So again, he's a pretty good run stopper before the injury. My worry is that you're coming off of an injury, and the Detroit Lions, guys, the Detroit Lions, who were so hurt last year, and they're still being injured, by the way. They're still being injured. They just cut him. When you're counting on somebody who's currently on the practice squad to not only get fully healthy, but to earn playing time when you didn't make an initial roster, that's concerning to me. Now, maybe this is a move for 2026. Keep him on the practice squad, sign into a futures contract, much like they did with Isaiah Buggs, but that didn't work out. And then hopefully he can come back next year fully healthy and then compete for a roster spot. I think that might be what we're looking at here, but keeping him on the practice squad will allow him to get healthy, and you see what you have on a guy like that who again played pretty well before the injury. But again, we're probably looking to 2026 for him to be on the roster or even impactful in that regard, at least in my opinion. Joshua, man, thank you for the question. Do you think they keep Brownlee for the first 6 weeks? Yeah, I think that you're going to see these guys on the roster for the entire time. Now, things can change, obviously, barring injury. I don't think that he's going anywhere. And based on what we've seen, he can be useful as a possession receiver, and again, back shoulder throws in the end zone. So that is something that I'm going to be paying attention to. Maybe watch what kind of packages he goes out to the offense with. If they want to use, multiple tight end sets, is he one of the guys? Because again, he can be that downfield contested catch kind of player if you throw it to the back shoulder. We'll kind of see how they end up using him. But I would think right now, because based off what we saw in the preseason and training camp, he's not an overly active special teams player. The fact they kept him makes me think that they want to use him in some of those back shoulder throw situations in the red zone. And then ideally lining him up one-on-one and trying to find ways to exploit that and get his talents out there. So we'll kind of see what happens. But but overall, I think that he's going to be utilized in some way, shape, or form in that way. Another one from you, Angler, regarding keeping 8 wide receivers. Obviously, go with Bryce suspension, but we also need to remember that Brashard helps with the receiving along with the tight ends. Yeah, and that's another thing, is that it's like you have 9 receivers in essence, because Brashard Smith also played receiver in college, and he's going to be utilized out of the backfield up the seams. So one of the things that I think I saw a little bit more from the Chiefs in the preseason were attacking down the seam, not just with running back like Brashard Smith. He had 2 targets from Patrick Mahomes in that preseason game. One was up the left seam. The other one was an angle route out of the backfield. He's a matchup problem against linebackers and safeties. You can find ways to manipulate those guys as well. But if you attack down the seams on both seams, if you're able to get running back on one side and a tight end on the other side, you're going to force safeties to come down here to the seams. And that's where you can actually attack downfield Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy. So this structurally makes sense from a passing perspective, where you're able to now force safeties to respect the seam route, to respect the running back out of the backfield. That's not something that they ever had to do last year at all. So I'm hoping that when you can do that and you can keep some of these things working in essence of attacking more down the field, you can then generate some more offense with more receivers and more options, not just inside your own 20, from the middle of the field, or inside the red zone. There's a lot of different options that they have there. So I'm interested for sure. Maddox, thank you for the question. Can the Chiefs go 6-0 without Rashee Rice? I mean, they can. I don't think that there's anything that says that they can't. I don't think they're going to, but I think that they can. They definitely have the talent. I think the offense is going to be way better this year than it was last year. The defense might take a step back. So we might be looking at Patrick Mahomes having to do a lot more work to be able to make that happen. But overall, I think that they can for sure. It's more about how early is the offense going to gel, and can they actually continue to be explosive like Patrick Mahomes has been talking about nonstop, like they want to do that. So we got to see a little bit more about what this offense is going to be able to do when they're out there for a full game and not just a few drives here and there. Keon, so most all of these guys, including Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's only one player who was not on the roster for Kansas City through training camp at one point, and that is Broderick Martin, formerly of the Detroit Lions. So all of these guys know the systems that they're playing in. They've grown. Most of them played in here before. Mike Edwards, CJ Hansen, Cole Christensen, all these guys were here eventually at one point. So I feel fine about it. I personally wouldn't have Cole Christensen there, but because it is the practice squad, that's kind of where he belongs. He knows the system, and he's able to execute those things in practice, which is all that they really need. Yes, I believe I had Damian Martinez as a day 2 pick based off his tape. The fact that he was one, this goes back to him hiring a bad agent. Sometimes your agents can make or break your draft cycle, and this is, I think, what happened to Damian Martinez. And then he got drafted by a team that has tons of running backs, and they don't need Damian Martinez. So it's interesting what's going to happen there. I would love to see Damian Martinez in Kansas City. I don't know if he's going to, but overall, I think that they've done a good job of. I won't say they've done a good job. Never mind. The Chiefs have not done a very good job of addressing the running back position. I still think Brashard Smith can be impactful. I'm more worried that they decided to bring back Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he knows the system and not take a chance on another rookie like a Damian Martinez who would play in the practice squad. You might see something out of him, then you can cut Elijah Mitchell. Like, I don't know. Frustrating. Oh, Doug, what's going on, man? Dan, what are your expectations for Jalen Royals this season? Well, if he's healthy, I think Jalen Royals can be a very, again, impactful is the name of the game right now because of how many weapons they have on offense, how many different players they can put out there at any point in time, different personnel packages they want to do. You want to see more pony personnel, they might see that as well. So the expectation, I think, right now is that he can be out there and execute a lot of the yard after catch stuff that Rashi Rice did. So if we get these conflicting reports cleared up, whether he's going to be ready by week 1 or not, then I can expect him to be involved in the offense and be a good yards after catch player, tough player over the middle of the field, and give you some explosives in the yards after catch department. However, if he's not fully healthy, then I don't know what to expect. I think throughout the rest of the season, he can be somebody that you move around the offense. He can play all 3 positions, and you still don't want to overload him. So I think you'll predominantly see him in a yak perspective. You'll see screens, some of those stop routes over the middle of the field, things that they did with Rashi Rice, some slants here, there too. So I think that he could be very useful. I just got to see him healthy. I mean, this is the obvious answer. It's going to be Xavier Worthy. And not only because of what he was able to do last year, I think that we will see a combination of the route tree. He was doing a lot of out routes, short yard stuff last year at the end of the season. He was doing a lot more running, a lot more running earlier in the season. However, if we go back to the Super Bowl, he was open so many times down the field. That's the kind of expectation I'm looking for from him, is getting those targets, but not just those targets, attacking defenses deep, but being a huge threat as well. He can really do everything for this offense. So for me, it's Xavier Worthy. I got a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to let you guys go for the evening. All right. Could you explain waivers, please? I've heard we pick at 31. Does that mean each team picks one player, like the draft, or they submit multiple players each time? You can select, you can put in a waiver claim for as many players as you want. However, it's done based on this. Right now, it's done based on your records from last year. So the Chiefs were at 31 because they went to the Super Bowl and lost. The Eagles have been at 32. So you have best to worst, just like the draft. That's pretty much how it goes for the waiver claims. And players that don't have 5 accrued seasons in the NFL are subject to waivers. So anybody, all rookies, all young players, again, if you have not accrued 5 NFL seasons and you've been on a roster, you have to be waived by that team, and then you can be claimed by anybody. But however your order is where it determines where you go. So the Jets claimed 2 Chiefs players, which means the first 6 teams in the order did not select or did not put a claim in on both Cam Jones or Isapole, but the Jets put them on both. So they were able to get them. It doesn't matter how many players you put claims in on. You just have to be able to fit them on your practice squad and or roster. Hopefully that answered your question for you. Is the back shoulder throws being used more this offseason, or did I just miss them doing it the past few years? Now, it felt like an active situation. Like they were trying to do that with these guys. And again, maybe they're putting it on tape to make defenses play a little bit more outside leverage to try to get underneath those. So then you can attack the inside. I don't know, but I do feel like it's something that they've needed to attack specifically because they don't do it. And defenses when you're predictable, defenses will pick up on that. So I think that this is a good idea for them just because it allows them to do more than what they've done in the past, which is typically only target guys that are wide open. And at the end of the day, that's not always going to get things done. Joshua, nice to see you. And then thanks for another question. The first 6 weeks could be super helpful down the stretch with Rice coming back, but also allowing other wide receivers to step in and gel with the offense and give Pat more options. I mean, ideally, right? In a perfect world, that's exactly what would happen. It would allow them to do that. For me, I just hope that this allows Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown the time to get going, because that's all that matters. I think that Rashi Rice, whenever he steps on the field, he's already going to be in that mode with Patrick Mahomes. They have that connection. They have already developed that. So this is just about those 2 guys for me, making sure that Hollywood Brown stays healthy and then getting them on the fast track and being aggressive, sometimes being aggressive for aggressive sake and just to show defenses that you're willing to do it. Maddox, we will get to this. Ryan and I will do a whole prediction show for next Friday. Don't worry, guys. We will absolutely have that for you guys. So, Mike, I did answer this question at the beginning of the closer to the beginning. Mike Pennel is currently in stasis, flux, if you will. He's out there waiting. I think he is they're waiting to see if he's going to be ready to play, because when you don't bring him back, it makes me feel like he's not going to be. You're right. No, you're right. FLDB next Thursday. Sorry. Next Thursday. My bad. Got a lot going on. He's currently in flux, so we're waiting to see what happens there. If he's ever brought back, I mean, remember 2 years ago against the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl that season, they brought him off the couch and he was able to play. So I'm not worried about that aspect. It's more of what they think of him at this point. Do they think that Mike Pennel can actually give you anything? Because they brought back Derek Nottie, who was going to get cut by the Jets, and they didn't even sign Mike Pennel to the practice squad. They brought in a guy who was injured last year. Again, I don't agree with the situation. I don't agree with what they've done. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. And please, I appreciate that, Doug. Hit the like button, everybody. Please just give it 1 second. It takes 1 second. Go down there somewhere and hit that like button. I really would appreciate it. Last question here from Dr. Who, one of our members. If you guys want to, you can always join the members. Down here, we will have more members content for you. We got some surprises in the works for you guys. And like I said, you guys watched me on Monday. I've got a list of rant stuff. And now that I have a setup, we will be doing one of the rants as soon as I get calmed down and be back for you guys as well. Can Josh Simmons stay healthy all season? Outside of the knee, did he miss many games in college? I think that was the only games that he missed, personally, what I remember seeing. I only watched 2023 and then the beginning of 2024. So I didn't go all the way back to before he transferred to Ohio State. That's something I can look into. But I think he can. Again, it was, by all accounts, he's done well. Like, he's been fine. Like, there's been no ill effects from playing on the knee. Again, it's the ramp up. Training camp was the first test. Put the pads on with the second test. Third test is playing snaps in the preseason game. The last test were the multiple drives they had. This first game in Sao Paulo is going to be the ultimate one. If he can come back from this and be just fine, I've got no issues. I think he can be fully healthy for sure. Appreciate you, Dr. Who. And as Beach says right here, thank you for the 2, my friend. Hit that like button, you guys. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you for being here. Everyone, I know that sometimes we can get frustrated. I can be frustrated on Twitter because I'm allowed to be frustrated on Twitter. That place is frustrating, and no one should feel comfortable on Twitter at all times. However, we come to the shows, we talk it through. I'm still going to be a little frustrated with how I feel about it. I'll have my own opinions, but at the end of the day, I do think this is going to work out just fine. I'm interested to see what the run defense looks like. Maybe they get more out of Omar Norman Lott than I expected. Again, playing him at 1 tech and 20 pounds, maybe 15 pounds heavier than what he played at isn't the best idea, but we'll kind of wait and see. Give it a wide berth, right? Let's see what happens this season. Maybe Mike Pennel comes back and everything's fine and we don't have to worry about it. But you guys, please have a great rest of your evening. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and thank you for the well wishes about getting my office set up and everything. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully, by the time we come back around, do some more of these videos, it'll be set up and we'll have no more issues. But please enjoy the rest of your evening. We will have a video for you guys tomorrow, and I have a special video for you guys on Friday. I know Ryan teased it last night that I was going to have the AFC West preview show. I will be saving that for Friday. On Friday, yesterday I was joined by Derek Klassen of the Athletic Football Show. We went through the AFC West. We talked Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs. We give you guys the details on everything, and we go through all of it and then give you guys who's going to win the AFC West. So make sure you tune in on Friday to check out that video. It was a lot of fun. And please enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.